With the recent food shortages and some of the shipping problems we've encountered with coronavirus, now is a good time to stock up on some foods because we never know when a second wave might happen or when something else might happen. It's a good time to learn about 21 foods you can stockpile now that have a long shelf life. Honey is known as one of the only foods that can last forever. This is largely due to the fact that it is made up of sugar, which makes it hard for bacteria or microorganisms to affect the honey. Plus, it makes your food taste a little sweeter. Regular white rice or minute rice will last up to 5 years, but uncooked white rice in oxygen-free containers will last between 25 and 30 years according to the USDA. No moisture and plenty of oil, peanut butter can keep for at least 3 to 5 years. Now, rancification can set in about 9 to 12 months if it's not stored properly, so store it properly. Unopened bottles of pure hard liquor like vodka, whiskey, and rum will stay drinkable forever as long as they are stored and sealed correctly, and they have great barter implications. Dried beans and lentils can last indefinitely, and canned beans can last years if stored in a cool, dry place. Beans are cheap and easy to load up on. Energy bars, according to FBS's food guide, basically last forever and they come in handy in a pinch, so get some of these for sure. Dehydrating meats is a surefire way to get protein if you have limited access. If you dehydrate it with salt and hot pepper, it will last up to 2 months. If you use a dehydrator and you vacuum seal it, it can extend its life a long time. Bouillon cubes, especially if they're vegetarian, can last up to a year past their expiration date. So as long as no moisture gets in there, it'll stay fresh for a while. Usually with an expiration date of a few years into the future, canned foods will last longer if you store it properly. Everything from canned pineapples to pork will stay fresh for a while. High acid canned foods will keep their best quality for 12 to 18 months, whereas low acid canned foods will keep from between 2 to 5 years. Regular powdered milk often has a best buy date of 18 months, but according to USDA, it's a shelf-stable food. It can last indefinitely. Now, instant coffee packers stored in the freezer will last pretty much forever. Stored in the shelf, it can last up to 20 years. To make some of your food taste better, stock up on some pure vanilla extract. It'll last indefinitely and might even get better with age because it's 35% alcohol. Dried fruits like dried apricots, raisins, and prunes will stay at their prime for about 6 months in a sealed container. It'll last about an extra 6 months if you store them in a tightly concealed container in the refrigerator. A bag of all-purpose flour can stay good for a whole year, though this is primarily the case if the flour is refrigerated. Dried pasta can be kept in the pantry for up to 2 years. Once it's cooked, though, it will only stay good for 3 to 4 days in the fridge. Potatoes can last for several months. You want to store them in a dark, cool environment. You may not want to store them in the freezer because you could get a mushy potato once they've thawed. Canned meat and tuna can last up to 5 years on the shelf, and you can get them in bulk for pretty inexpensive. Shredded or grated Parmesan can last up for a year when stored in the freezer. A block will only last for about 6 months though. Grains in general are long-lasting pantry staples, but they can even last longer if you store them properly. In general, oats have a shelf life of 4 months, but they can last as long as 8 months if they're frozen. Frozen vegetables stay good for 8 months in the freezer. Plus, because they're packed and frozen at their peak freshness, they can be just as nutritious as fresh produce. According to Healthline, store-bought bread will last for almost a week on the counter, but it can last up to 3 months if you freeze it. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure and click on one of my other videos, and always remember, prepare, survive, and thrive.